All right, we're live. We're gonna wait for a few people to get in here. But KDot and I were just talking. What's up, Kip? Nice to have you in here. McDonald, Jonathan was in there earlier. Mick T was in there. He's Bernie's here. He sent us a Warwick Davis King, which probably means martini, Bernie. So
I haven't had a chance to look at it, but I know.
yeah,
I know it's there.
yeah, okay. So
Forgotten him.
no worries. We're gonna have a good show today. We're gonna start here in a minute, but we were just talking right before we got on the air, KDOT. Something the Denver police are doing now. There's gonna be a critique page. Is that what you're saying, KDOT? We went on air right when you were talking about it.
Yeah, my best friend was telling me about it. There's going to be like a critique page or something like that, and I'm like, wow, cool.
Yeah. You know
Um,
how long that's gonna last,
I,
KDOT? It's gonna
I,
last about every bit of a day, if that, man. They'll take
yeah,
that thing
probably,
down
yeah,
so
that's cool.
fast.
Yeah, and it was crazy because he was just like, he said, "Oh shit," he's like, the first person I thought about was you. He's like, damn, he really getting on their ass.
Kelly C, welcome into chat. We're going to have a heck of a show for you today. We're going to have kind of a retraction and an addition, in my view,
Yeah,
on the panel that we did the other day. I had to take that down because there was some information that was disseminated that was incorrect. But trust me, it gets better because I did get the right information. So we're gonna go over that here in just a second. I'll wait for a couple more people to get on in, and then we will get started. KDOT, what's on your agenda, man? What do you got coming up? I usually do plugs at the end. We'll do plugs as well at the end, but what do you got coming up, man? That people have to look forward to.
I would say, man, my 15-second videos or second videos are getting a lot of traction on TikTok. Please join me on TikTok. Um, man, I'm actually posting a lot of them on my Facebook page, and they're getting a lot of traction. And a lot of those people on that page are like close friends of mine, and they're like, "Oh shit, that's you doing that?" Like,
Yeah, yeah,
and I'm like, "Yeah." And it was like, "We didn't know that you did that." And so
yeah,
I'm getting a lot of support over there, and people are emailing me and DMing me and like, hey, and if there's anything that we can do to help, we'd love to help. So I'm all
yeah,
for that. Loving the
yeah.
love, and we got some things coming up. Me and MLH. Hopefully, we'll speak to the chief of police of Aurora uh,
Yes.
soon here. So
Can't wait. He's still considered the interim, right?
correct.
All right, this guy's got promise. His name is Acevedo, I believe is his last name.
Believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Let's before we get started, I just want to mention that KDOT's up to 7,000. The last time we spoke, I think he was at 6,000. He's starting to blow up, and I've said this for a little while now. KDOT is the best that Denver has to offer. I'm not joking with that. KDOT has and always will be my favorite cop watcher slash activist in the Denver area. So if you're not sub to KDOT, make sure that you do so because you want to be one of the first, not one of the last. You know what I'm saying? So just make sure you hit that sub button on KDOT's channel. And without further ado, I think we should get this party started. What do you say, KDOT?
Yeah. It's always a party.
All right, here we go. All right, welcome to what I'm calling the Ramos Files follow up. I am, of course, MLH. I'm with my very good friend, my buddy, my brother from another, DJ KDot, the party. KDot, how are you, man?
I'm doing well, man. Thank you for having me again.
Yes.
It's an
Go
honor
ahead,
to be
man.
on the show.
Yeah. We've got a follow up, as the name implies, guys. This is a follow up to a panel we did. Probably a couple 3 days ago now.
Yep.
This is interesting, K Dot, because if you remember on the last panel, we were talking about Officer Ramos and his out of control behavior. He ended up injuring 5 people allegedly. Right now, I have to say allegedly because
Right.
everybody's going through due process, all that. But he was indicted, and I found it odd last time. If you remember, K Dot, we had what we believe to be Officer Ramos's internal affairs complaint file, or they call it. What do they call it? They call it resume, which is really weird that they would call internal affairs complaints a resume, right? And we went through a litany of stuff, and to come to find out, my instinct was right. We errantly assumed that the officer listed was the internal affairs officer that was disseminating all the information on Officer Ramos. Well, what had happened was the idiots that emailed me the wrong file. And before we get into that file, I want to acknowledge everybody in chat. I see Knowledge is Power is in there. Kip is awesome. Make sure you check out Knowledge is Power's channel as well. Kelly C's in there. Russell Sperry, thank you for being in there. Channel of Transparency. Penny Bunny is in there. Penny's got a great channel as well. Make sure you check her out. King Solomon is in there.
Yep.
Jonathan Mazzilli is in there. Matthew the King is in there. He says allegedly misconduct is Ramos's resume. No doubt. And we're going to go over it here, Matthew, because I got the proper information. And of course, Bernie is in chat, but she's also in studio as well. Look, it happens. People make mistakes, but KDOT, why do you think that the department made this mistake, this quote unquote mistake, and sent me the wrong file? Do you think it was intentional?
I think they did it on purpose.
Yeah.
I think they did. I mean, come on. How do you fuck that up? And then not only that, what did you write it out or didn't they write it out?
Yeah. See, that's the thing. And I was a little confused at first too. I was like, remember I said this
You did.
I mean, this looks like a different, but I'm like, okay, let's go with this, but I will get clarification. And I told everybody on that last panel, I want to get clarification on it, right? So I did follow up, and I did end up getting the right file. So let's go ahead and pull that up, and we'll go over some of the differences. But I'm not done with Officer Oliver either, KDOT. I mean, that file is pretty atrocious, right? We went over it. He's got a 10-year history of being a tyrant, it looks like. But there is a gap in Oliver's resume. I'm wondering if Oliver, and I'll try to find out information on Oliver as well. But let's go ahead and pull up this one. Now, you would think, hold on, I got to zoom in here because I know it's not exactly easy to see. But here we go. That should be better.
Can you do it one more time?
One more time. You got it. That better?
Perfect. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And I'll scroll over and whatever else I need to do. So check this out, guys. So in previously, it's like 24 KDOT. Previously on the MLH channel, we reported on an officer named Oliver. Now, I don't know if Oliver was also involved in the same thing, if he was one of the other officers that was there, but it was interesting that officer was exonerated from basically the same stuff that Ramos has here. But Ramos has only been with the department for about 3 years, KDOT. Previously, we mentioned that
Right.
Ramos's annual salary, he's a second grade. Right there, it says second grade. So I'm assuming he's like a corporal. I didn't see any stripes on him, KDOT. I'd have to look at the video again.
No, he didn't
Uh,
have any stripes.
right.
You're right.
But second grade means that he's above, right? One class above first grade, right? Because first grade's kind of lowest, or is it the
Yeah.
opposite? Is it
Yeah.
he's second and then first is above? I'm assuming second grade is above first grade, right?
He was probably going to be, if anything,
Promoted.
he was probably going to be promoted to agent, which is the one chevron.
Right,
Um,
right.
so FTO, a field training officer. Oh God. Whew.
Yeah, I know. God, that
Because
guy is.
I know in Aurora, I'm not sure about Denver. In Aurora, you have to work there at least 5 years
Yeah,
to be considered to even be considered for a promotion. So
yeah. Channel transparency sounds like they sent you the wrong information to throw you off.
yep.
Kelly C says excited for this. I'm excited for this too because we actually look. I wasn't excited at first, KDOT, and when I looked at his file, I got actually more excited because it's even worse than what we thought. Right? Right? I mean, Oliver's case, he was only charged with uh, third degree assault, I believe, and it said he was exonerated. Right? But
Right.
which I thought was kind of weird that they would exonerate because there was confusion as to which officer it was or whatever.
Mhm.
But this paints a completely different picture. So before we thought Ramos was a over 10-year veteran, right? That was
Right.
Oliver. Oliver is a 12-year veteran and is still at first grade, which means that he's done nothing his entire career and has had nothing but complaints, right?
Pretty
Citizen
much.
complaints that were overlooked, et cetera, et cetera. By the way, Jot, welcome to chat. Um, so uh, this is even worse, KDOT, because Ramos is a 3-year veteran, so 7 years less, and he's got a somewhat smaller quote resume than Oliver, but everything points to the wrong things, right? If you look
Right.
here, KDOT, I mean, I think I sent this to you, so you kind of know.
Yep.
Uh, can I do this? Yes, I can. Hold on. Let's widen this out a bit so everybody can see what I'm seeing. Let's go even further. Where are we at here? All right, there we go. Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
I think you
Perfect.
guys can see that much better now.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you look here in 2021, there were some allegations of it's something about duty to obey departmental rules and mayoral executive orders, right? So
Mhm.
this is probably has to do with COVID stuff, not wearing your mask or whatever, right?
Okay.
Because Denver was on the same kind of lockdown rules. So I don't put too much stock into that because I think that's kind of a personal choice. But if the department is saying wear your mask or whatever orders these were, and I'm assuming since it says mayoral, KDOT, it's a blanket thing like wear your mask or
Well,
you know
I
something.
did notice something just now.
Yeah,
Body worn camera policy
where do you see that?
right here. BWC.
Oh, there you go. So he didn't put on his body worn camera at some point, right?
Probably when he had maybe an interaction with a citizen, and the citizen reported on him, and then there was no footage to.
Right. So this could be a broad array of things, right? So this was sustained, right? Which means he was found uh, in, um, in violation of that policy, right?
Yep.
But look what happened on May 12th of 2022. So this is the police union in action, right? It took almost a year or 6 months, over 6 months that to get an oral reprimand, and he wasn't given a
Right.
day off without pay, nothing, right? So for violating body worn camera policies, there's no repercussions. It's like a slap on the wrist. We're gonna tell you, oh, don't do that again, and then nothing happens. This is why they get away with literally murder, because nothing ever happens, because the union makes it almost impossible to discipline their employees, our employees,
Yeah.
right? So then you have another RR 607, failure to make, file, or complete official required reports. No misconduct they found. So they just swept that one under the rug, right? I mean, he failed to like do proper paperwork, which all police officers are required to do. Nothing was done with that. What do you think about that, KDot?
I felt that there was very vague. These are like very vague. It's
Yeah.
not explaining why he was found not guilty, or not guilty on these things, because it would help clarify to the public of why not. Because we were able to find the reports, or that's the reason why, or maybe he wasn't trained correctly, or just I don't know. I think those notes to be put it in there for the public, I
Very
think it's
vague.
crucial.
Yeah,
What do you-
that's very, very vague, right? I mean, you're right. I mean, it should be more specific than that, and especially how. I mean, who? The other thing is, they should put in these reports who investigated these alleged policy violations.
Sure.
And they don't list any of that. They don't list a case number. So there's no way of knowing who investigated this. This could have been Officer Ramos's direct report, or someone else. We don't know. And that's a shitty thing about policing that needs to change as well. It's not that long, so let's continue here. Scheduled discipline. This is different. So the first one was a citizen complaint, which he got nothing for. And then now there's a scheduled discipline, right? February 28th, 2022, for I'm assuming a different incident, January 22nd, rough or careless handling of city and department property, preventable accident, which was sustained February 26th. Again, look what the punishment is, right? So this guy damaged a car. I'm guessing he got into a fender bender or something of that nature.
Right.
Maybe he ran into some other government property. Look at the punishment. February 28th, he got an oral reprimand with no hours suspended, days, whatever. So what does that tell you? I mean, yeah.
that's also kind of vague, because if I'm not mistaken, I think if you get in the property damage, as far as the vehicles, I think they're automatically drug tested, or some, at least I'm not incredibly sure on that, but it should be. And if it was drug tested, alcohol tested, all those type of things, that should also be on the report.
Yes.
Whether if he was under the influence of anything.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I'll take it one step further, KDOT. I think all officers should be tested every, I don't know, 6 months.
I agree.
I think that's perfectly reasonable. I think if you look at any anti-doping, programs out there for sports or whatever, I mean, they're tested regularly. I think our officers should be tested regularly, and anybody found under the influence should be immediately fired from the force. They are a danger, just like somebody drinking and driving, or somebody under the influence of drugs while they're driving should have a DUI. These guys should not be on the force at all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, if it were to happen to me and you at a private sector, we would be terminated immediately.
Oh, no doubt, and that's what should happen here. But the union won't have it. Secret Agent Man is in chat. He says, abolish qualified immunity and absolute immunity and police unions. I agree with all three things here in Colorado. Luckily, one good thing our governor has done here has gotten rid of qualified immunity.
Yeah.
That's the first step. That hasn't changed their behavior here, KDOT, I don't think. And it's not until they start getting hit in the pocketbook, right?
Yeah.
Until people start suing them personally for liability and people start winning those cases,
Yeah.
not settling any cases, start winning those cases. That's when things might start changing a little bit. But you got the
Yeah.
police unions. That's another thing. I think the police union should be abolished. That would be a good step in the right direction for sure.
Right, I agree. And if not abolished, then they should definitely be held to a certain standard, because even though it is a private entity, I think there should be some type of insurance policy for them, to where they're hit too, and to where, okay, this officer is way too expensive because he's a liability.
Yep. And then yeah, exactly. I mean, he's cost us so much money. We're not insuring him anymore, and therefore the city can say, "Get out of here."
Right,
That'll
right.
give the city an actual out on officers, right? If the insurance isn't going to cover them, they're too much of a liability, because it all comes down to money, anyways, right? KDOT has
Yeah.
nothing to do with people's fucking morality or anything like it should. I mean, you shouldn't want to shoot somebody, you shouldn't
Right.
want to arrest anybody. Like, why would you want to do any of that? I mean, I always said, KDOT, one of the things that should change within the police department is getting accolades for not as many arrests, right? The person with the least amount of arrest is and I'm not talking about lazy police work, right? I'm talking about, the officer did the right thing and letting people go. Like, in other words, if you're on a traffic stop and some guy's being lippy with you, you don't your ego doesn't get in the way and you don't arrest that person. That's what I'm talking about. It's the stuff
Right.
like that, stuff that's easily, you can let people go on. I've seen many a time when an officer pulls somebody over, the person gets a little heated or they get a little nervous and the officer decides to arrest them for nothing, and they don't get any repercussions. But I always said, instead of having accolades for the officer that arrests the most people or gives the most tickets, why don't we incentivize the opposite?
Yeah.
People that don't arrest and don't give out as many tickets. I mean, it'll never happen because the city likes all that money coming in, which, by the way, I just saw a study, KDOT, that suggested that the amount of money that the police bring in for speeding tickets and for traffic violations and stuff like that is a pittance to what we pay out in cop salaries. So that's another thing that I think we need to look at too. I think cops are way overpaid for what we get, right?
Sure.
I'm not saying don't pay them, because that's, I mean, you have to get paid for work, right?
Yeah.
But how many times have we been on a scene, KDOT, where there's 8 to 10 cops just standing around doing nothing? And if we weren't there, they would stand there for hours just doing nothing.
Yep. Last cop watch we did.
Yeah. Hey, Tapatios, welcome on in, man. Thanks for stopping by. I really appreciate that. Let's see. Anon Mouse, you still need to sue departments and municipalities. You're not going to get much from a cop. Well, that depends, Anon Mouse. I mean, look at Ramos's salary is $108,000 a year, base salary, not including overtime, not including side gigs, not including his benefits, not including his pension. So, yeah, there's thoughts to that, but there's also thoughts that cops do carry quite a bit of wealth in their coffers, especially if they save a little bit of money, which most do. They do that, officer, of go to another state and try to apply it. And that's another thing. Why is it that when an officer gets fired, right, he can just go to the next municipality and get hired on the spot?
Well, because they're going to the lot. If you notice, they'll go to a smaller town. This where or they'll go to a town where it police are heavily celebrated and romanticized.
Yep.
But it's usually those smaller towns where they have less accountability, less eyes on them. Those sundown towns that we're talking about, to where that you can't be out at a certain point in time at night, or you're going to get fucked with by the police. So they go to those agencies. So
Yeah. Yep. Channel Transparency says, and the cops will turn on and say, "We're doing an investigation," but in reality, they're standing around doing nothing. How many times have we seen that, KDot? Over and over.
yeah,
10 cops just standing in a circle, like, they're just, and for long periods of time. I've observed from a distance before, KDot, on cop watches, and you have as well. We both have,
yeah,
where they don't know we're there yet, and they'll just stand there like doing nothing, and it drives me crazy. Secret Agent Man says, make them live with $1,600 per month. Yeah. I mean, they're
yeah.
way overpaid. Secret Agent Man, way overpaid. So no doubt. Make sure and hit that like button. We can get more people in here. The more likes that we have, people, if you haven't already. I know I'm a broken record like every other YouTuber with the like button, but it really does make a difference. So be like Tapatios and hit that like button. All right, let's
Yes.
continue, KDot, with his resume here. I can't believe they call it a resume. It just boggles my mind. Internal complaint IA. Let's see the allegation. Oh, this is the big one, KDot, and this is the okay. Last week last panel we errantly showed a different officer's report, and it was extensive, right? It was a few pages long. This one's only 2 pages long, and you would think it would be less worse, but it's actually worse. This is
Mhm.
the all right, for those who are not in the know. Jackstar, welcome. Nice to have you in here. um, the This is the one. This is the officer that shot into a crowd of 5 people, or a big crowd, and shot 5 people, injured 5 people. Right?
Yep.
There were 2 other officers that did the same, but they determined that Ramos was the one that shot all 5. Which I don't know if I'm buying, KDot, and maybe Officer Ramos in court can prove that maybe 1 or 2 of those wasn't his bullets. I don't know how he would do that, but that's not for me to decide. It's for a jury, and whatever. But this is the same guy, for those who don't know, that we ran into earlier that evening, right? About an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours before he shot into that crowd. K Dot and I both called it. We both said this guy's going to get somebody killed, and he almost did it that night. So, there you go. Um, so here it is. This is the big one. Let me pull this one all up here. Internal complaint in IA, and then it gives the case number, which is really weird that they give the case number on this one. I think it's because it's high profile. Um, and it just came January 4th. Ramos was indicted on the following allegations: aggravated conduct prohibited by law, second degree assault, conduct prohibited by law, prohibited use of weapons, conduct prohibited by law, assault in the third degree, and conduct prohibited by law, reckless endangerment. So this all stems from that incident on July 17th, 2022, where he shot 5 people, by just blindly shooting into a crowd of people. So, what are your thoughts on this? This is even worse, right? K. Dot,
Yeah.
last time we looked at it, it was just the third degree assault, but they added, not added, but in addition to that, he's got a second degree assault. He's
Yeah.
got prohibited use of weapons and reckless endangerment. Do you think this is enough here, K. Dot, or do you think there should be more violations?
Um, I I don't know. I if if the feds got involved, I definitely think it. Um, well, civilly, um, they violated their Eighth Amendment right, their 14th Amendment right, uh, cruel and unusual punishment. Um, I mean, they definitely got a federal lawsuit going on here. But as far as a criminal, um, I think it's okay for right now. But again, remember, the DA can always add charges later. So even during the proceeding of the court proceedings before it goes to trial, so they can stack those charges up for sure.
Secret
Um,
Agent Man says attempted murder. Um, yeah, his intent was to kill the guy that
yeah,
had the gun, right? But
that's
I
going to
mean,
be a little bit harder to prove
yeah,
because if there
yeah.
was as far as intent, um,
Yeah, I
he,
don't yeah. I think you could possibly charge him with it, but I don't think it would stand up in court. Maybe that's why the initial investigation only added these charges. So,
I would say involuntary manslaughter. Um, they need that definitely needs that charge needs to be on there.
yeah.
Um, yeah, uh, yeah, for sure. So
Yeah. Prohibited use of weapon could include possession if the person being possessed was considered a covert military asset.
mm,
Well, I don't know. That's a little different, but I mean, I think those charges are actually okay, KDot. I think those are the only ones that would really. I think that's why they did it the way that they did. Now,
right.
in a civil thing, I mean, there's a myriad of things that they can add to all of this. So, I'm really curious. I honest opinion, KDot. Do you think that any of these charges are going to stick? Any of them?
The laws that are again, thank God for that Senate bill 217. Um, I think some of them are, but not all of them. For sure, not all of them. Maybe one or two charges will stick, but again, now that that Senate bill, which is a fairly new bill, just passed, I believe that's going to um, steer the DAs in the right direction
Yeah.
on how to practice that particular law to where they can get a conviction. So
Yeah. Jack Star says, wait, my bad. Are you trying to figure out what happened, or are you trying to figure out how to make as much money off of his insurance policy as possible? No, we know what happened, Jack Star. He shot into a crowd of people in downtown Denver. KDOT and I were actually there about a block away. And as I mean, it's really weird. We ran into this officer earlier. We both pointed out what a tyrant he was
mhm.
and the fact that he's going to get somebody killed. And that night, literally that night, he shot into a crowd of people and allegedly injured 5 people by shooting recklessly. So it's
And these were healthy people, and not only even young people. You know what I'm saying? And now it's more of a just a physical aspect or attribute that was damaged. It's a psychological, mental thing because these are young people who are having a good time, and they're always going to uh, now believe that no cop is good, you know,
right.
and no that they just don't have trust for their government. And then not only that, these poor young people are now getting uh they're even getting comments saying that that the officer was and they're like, well, wait a minute, we're the victim, we're the one who got shot, like why are we getting mistreated and we're the victims? And
Right.
so they have to deal with that too, as far as the haters and the bootlickers and you know, they didn't mean to shoot you, and it doesn't matter if they fuck that, like they did, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, the video evidence doesn't lie. Jack Star's saying, "You're sure you know?" Yes. The video does not lie, Jack Star. You can see it for yourself. The body worn cameras, you can see the surveillance footage. They were out of control that day.
they
Period.
were absolutely.
I don't think
They
there's any
we even there's a video that I did where I slowed it down, and some of the news organizations even slowed it down
Yep.
to where that you can comprehend what is actually going on, and they're talking through it. You
Yep.
know,
Yep.
no, but I mean, a camera is an objective witness for a reason, and
Yep.
yes, he was reckless from that. And I mean, this dude was out of control, and you have to understand a lot of the shit that he was reprimanded for. Nothing happened to him to where that it affected him financially, or even, you know, really. I mean, he just. I mean, it's not even a write up on any of the things he done. It was all oral reprimand. You know.
Right. Right. Jonathan Mazzilli says Mag dumped into a crowd of people for quote public safety. Um, if they come up with public safety on this one, Jonathan, I'll be the first one to go down with KDot, and we will cover the thing the way that it should be covered, and we'll make very very good use of our time, and letting people know that is total and utter horse manure.
Yeah.
Those young people going to be traumatized for life now, no question.
Absolutely.
Other side of life, welcome to chat. Thank you for coming on in. Really appreciate it. People who do that type of thing are referred to as mass shooters. See,
It was literally a mass
it
shooting.
was literally a mass shooting. Somebody else said something really interesting that I want to. Oh, Jonathan also said, um, that's something that you should not only be fired for, which if he's convicted of any of these things, he should be immediately fired and banned for life from being a police officer. I think anybody in this realm
Agree.
that's putting the public at risk like this should not be able to do that. But Jonathan takes it one step further. This is a reason that you should also lose your ability to carry guns. I could not agree with you more, Jonathan Mazzilli. I know we have the Second Amendment right to bear arms, but if you read the Constitution, it's actually a well-regulated militia, and that to me would be well regulated. Weeding out people that don't know how to handle a gun. So, yes, even though I'm a huge proponent of the Second Amendment, I don't personally own a gun. I don't. I don't think I could ever own a gun because I don't want to be in a position to be forced to kill someone. I mean, it
I
just.
do.
I know you do, K Dot, and I know a lot of people do, and I don't. I respect it. I mean, I'm a good shot actually. I'm a really
It's,
good
it's
shot.
just it's just that you have to be responsible.
Yes.
You have to be a
Yes.
responsible gun owner, and you can't let your ego. I mean, you literally. And here's the thing: once you pull that thing out, you better use it. You know,
Right.
and it's nothing to be. It's nothing to mess with. You know, and once you take somebody's life, that's it. That stays with you. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
that definitely stays with you. So
Matthew says if a bus driver ran over 5 people in a crosswalk, wouldn't everyone want the bus driver charged with some crime? Yeah, and definitely fired, right?
sure,
I mean,
sure,
of course,
and sued.
and sued. Yeah, for sure. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I believe the Second Amendment was created to protect the First Amendment, among all the other amendments.
Yeah.
Secret Agent Man. I mean, that's. I mean, the Second Amendment was created in revolutionary times to basically ensure your right to revolt, right, for a tyrannical government.
Yeah.
And I know that the argument is made for the January 6th stuff and all that, but there were a lot of wrongs there and stuff. But I well regulated is the key, guys. Well regulated. That's the part that the NRA gets completely wrong. You know, they don't want any regulations, and it's like, you know, if you don't prevent mentally unstable people, which I believe 75% of our police are mentally unstable and unfit to carry a weapon, then there's a huge problem. You know, if you're mentally unstable and you're wielding a weapon, um, you can definitely do a lot of damage. You
For
know,
sure.
so I'm
For
an
sure.
NRA certified expert marksman who agrees Ramos' Second Amendment rights should be taken away. See, there you go. I
Yeah.
mean, I couldn't agree more, Matthew. I mean, there are certain people that should not have access to guns, you know, and that he's one of them, and he's unfortunately a police officer, you know.
And that's why it cracks me up when people say when they get upset. Some people get upset about defunding the police, but honestly, they're doing it to their own institution. They're
Yeah,
actually defunding the police when they do stupid shit like this, harm the public, and they get sued for it. That's defunding. That's
yeah,
not contributing
yeah.
to the police. That's defunding the police, literally.
I think
So
I think I think when officers get sued, it should go directly from the police budget. So if that means you have to start getting rid of officers to accommodate for all the lawsuits that they're getting, then that's what it means, you know.
yeah,
And if your police force is decimated by lawsuits, meaning you get a bunch of lawsuits and now you have to get rid of a lot of police, well, then that's what it means. You know, I mean, there's no other way around it. I mean, maybe you need to look at the budgets and the price that we pay both figuratively and literally for the people that you put in those positions. If I own a company,
right.
KDot, and let's say it's a construction company, and I'm like, you know, I'm a big drug advocate. I mean, I smoke marijuana. I'm a huge weed guy. I believe that anybody should have the right to do that in this country. If I own a
Mhm.
company that's as sensitive as construction, right? Where you're dealing with a lot of dangerous moving parts. Do I, as a marijuana advocate, do I want to hire a person that's on drugs to do that particular job? I would say no. I would say I am doing drug testing on a regular basis just to make sure that you're on the up and up and can do the job accordingly. You can be lucid during the day. You know, you're able to handle the job. Why is that? Why does the police unions, not want that type of stuff? Why do they not want mandatory drug testing? Why do they not want mandatory psych evaluations every, you know, I don't know, 6 months to a year? I don't think it's that much. I don't think it would cost that much in the police budget to make sure that we have officers that are capable of doing the job and doing the job the right way.
And you're right. And honestly, you bring up a great point as far as the marijuana narrative, because I used to work for marijuana uh, code enforcement in the dispensaries. So we would be, it states we never did any drug testing for the people that were hired for the dispensaries, but we did state in our policy, like, look, you cannot be smoking uh, while on duty. You know what I'm saying? You
Mhm.
cannot do that because there's heavy machinery that the that we have to deal with. There's a lot of people that I caught on forklifts because there's like a, I don't know, some type of rope that you have to click to your harness,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
there's a lot of people that I had like told them, hey, I'm looking on camera, and they're just they're like 3 stories high, and they're, you know, treating the plants, and they don't have a harness hooked up. So if they step off that forklift, that's it.
Right.
That is absolutely it. There's no
Right.
harness holding them up. And the thing is, we investigated. Our job was to investigate, making sure people weren't hotboxing in the bathrooms and all those type. And we caught people like that because they're an endangerment and a liability uh, to that situation, and you were fired for that. They
Yeah.
all they asked was like, we don't mind if you smoke pot, just do it. Either just do it out, right after you leave um after you leave out of those gates, you
On
can
your
do
own time, who cares, right? And
yeah,
I would say that to my people if I owned like a construction company. I don't care what you do. If the nanogram, like, because they test by nanograms, right? And you can
yeah,
definitely tell if somebody's smoking on the job or not on the job, right? If they're a regular marijuana users away from work, I mean, you can tell by the nanograms, right?
right.
Let's get to some other things here. Bleeblitz, welcome on in. Nice to have you in here. ATL, welcome. Shit Show, AC, welcome on in. Nice to have you in here. John Denicola, welcome to you as well, sir.
John Delacola, good
Yeah,
morning, sir.
ATL, I think I said. Spooky just joined. Welcome on in. Make sure you're hitting that like button. Let's get more people in here. The more likes you hit, the more exposure the channel gets. So that's kind of how things work on YouTube. Stupid algorithms. Channel Transparency says your company becomes a liability if you allow frivolous use of drugs. I agree. Secret Agent Man says mandatory physical exams. This is another key sticking point. Why does the union not want mandatory physical exams? KDot. How many times have we been out on a traffic stop or some other police activity, and the officers don't look like they could run one block, let alone a mile, chasing a suspect? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, why do they not have physical standards?
I think
Go ahead.
because again, it's they don't want to do that. They don't want to fund that. They just want to take the money and have it for themselves. And the narrative is, the people versus police agencies. That's literally what they're taught in these classes. And this is why me and you, sir, need to go and get uh, these cadets, because a lot of these cadets are coming from the it's like ROTC, but it's not. But it's like a police cadet program from high school, and that's where they're drafting these guys from. And we need to be teaching them shit like this, so none of this shit happens, And they don't like accountability when it comes to them. They
Right.
they want to be the ones to have the power to hold accountability, not them. It's
Right.
not us. So they don't like it. They don't like, they'll call it, micromanaging, whatever.
Yeah.
But that's literally why they don't like it. They don't like being held accountable for shit.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. Trying to get caught up in chat here. By the way, appreciate each and every one of you guys and gals that's in here. It does my heart good to see everybody in here. Cop doesn't need to be in shape to be able to extort money on a traffic stop. See, that's another problem, Secret Agent Man. I pointed out something earlier that I glossed over, KDot, but something that's super important. The studies that I've seen have shown that the amount of money that people bring in, or that officers bring in via traffic violations and all this stuff, there's a big misnomer that's going around that that this in part funds police, and it's a fraction of what the police budget is. Like, the amount of money that we
Yeah.
pay way more money for the cop to sit there and give out those tickets than he brings in via giving tickets out, no matter how many tickets he gives, right? So even though it's a pain in the ass to us, like I got a ticket for this is a few years ago, but I got and it was a bullshit ticket, and I should have fought it, but I probably would have lost. But the officer said that I didn't stop at a stop sign, and I'm like, how could you tell? You were driving, I mean, like literally he was driving. How could he tell whether or not I stopped? And I did make a dead stop, but I got a ticket, and I went to a magistrate, and the magistrate was like, it was like $170. I'm like, $170. I mean, and he's like, yeah, I mean, you can take it to trial. And I'm like, Why? So I could get paid the full amount? I think it was like 250, but he reduced it to $170. And that's another thing. Unfair pricing on all of the tickets that you get, right? So
Yeah.
if you get a ticket for like speeding, it's different amounts of money that you pay depending on how fast you drive and stuff. It's like, I mean, it's just ridiculous, man. I mean, some of the penalties are just crazy, and they're meant to keep poor people down. That's all they're meant, because a person that has money can just easily send off a ticket of $250. What is that? I mean, it's no big deal. But let's see. Matthew says body worn cameras that can't be turned off and which upload automatically to the cloud, available to the public. That's
Right.
another thing. That's a good point, Matthew. I have said for years that body worn cameras should be on all the time.
You
The
said
only
that.
time
Yep.
the only time that they should be off is when an officer is going to the bathroom, or which a lot of shady shit can be done in bathrooms. A lot of stuff can be talked about in bathrooms, but let's at least cut that slack. And also lunches, because whatever you do on your free time, I mean, you do on your free time, it's your personal stuff, right? But all this bullshit where an officer can arbitrarily turn off that body worn cam, we just saw in this Ramos thing where he got in trouble for a body worn cam violation, which means he didn't have his cam on when it should have been on. Why is there even a choice? He should have to call in every time to dispatch, say he needs to go to the bathroom. Hey, dispatch, I'm going to go to the bathroom. I'll be 10-8 for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, whatever. And then the cop records that, the dispatch records that, and that way there's no BS when it comes to wondering what happened in that time frame, right?
Right.
Or I'm going 10-8 to lunch. I'll be on lunch now for an hour. So that way you can go to lunch, have your hour lunch, and then return to work. Okay, I'm back 10-8 from lunch, and then everything is good to go. Little Ridge Farm, welcome on in. You're welcome, Little Ridge Farm. Little Ridge Farm is an awesome dude. Make sure you go to. There's a GoFundMe now, I believe, to try to get. I mean, he had his whole house burned. Him and his daughter are really struggling. So if you guys could contribute to that GoFundMe, I don't know. Are there any mods in chat? If they can put that link in there, that would be really, really cool. I don't
Is
have.
there a link you can put? Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you
Okay.
hear me?
Perfect. Yeah. If you could put that, somebody could put that in the chat. That'd be great.
LA Spike, welcome to chat, sir. So the money they take from the individual person can ruin their lives. That's a good point. That's what I was saying, secret agent. I mean, you think about it too. I mean, for me at the time, I think I was donating plasma. So $250 for me was devastating. I mean, that's almost a month's worth of fucking plasma down the drain. It's like I went to plasma for nothing. So, it is what it is. But officer safety excuses just don't wash. Public servants are not responsible for your safety. It's not part of their job. Your own person is responsible for your safety, Spooky says. This is true. This is this is a Supreme Court ruling that officers are definitely not responsible for our safety. So every time that I see, there's still going around, KDot. There's still some municipalities that say to protect and serve on the side of their vehicles. It
Yep.
means nothing, because they're not there to protect or serve you. They don't care. They did the
Very
same
true.
crap in Mount Dora, Florida, when they arrested Jeff Gray. The sergeant had them turned off and removed their body worn cameras. That's what we're talking about. Stuff like that does not garner trust with the public, right, KDot? Like how can you trust somebody that has the ability to turn off the one thing that could show either they're right or wrong? And if I'm a police officer, I want that thing on all the time to show that I'm doing the right thing, right? I want no ambiguity when it comes to what I'm doing as an officer. And
Right.
it seems like anytime that they turn those off, that provides way less transparency, and it's time for that to stop. And why the union doesn't want that is beyond me. It's always about the union, KDot, always.
Yeah, it is. and
Uh,
that's why
yeah,
they're a whole problem. You
yeah.
know,
Um, this Ramos situation, KDot. Now
hmm
that you see, I mean, we thought it was bad last time, right? But it's even worse now, right? Because he's got a much smaller, quote unquote, resume with way more allegations on this docket here. What are your thoughts about this? Specific
about the
to specific to Ramos and his conduct that day, and the fact that they even charged him. Like, what are your thoughts on this whole deal?
I will say this, and again, um, not excusing him at all, but if you notice, most of the officers were were white, and they were the only ones that weren't charged, and he's the only person of color as far as an officer that was charged. So I find that kind of funny. Um, I don't know if you noticed that, MLH.
It
Again,
is
not excusing
right.
his acts, but those other officers should have been charged as well.
It is concerning, K dot. It
So
is concerning. And I thought that same thing. I mean, I don't want to be that guy, right? K dot that always points to that, but it is weird. There were at least 4 or 5 officers there, and he was the only one charged with anything.
yeah,
Plus, I'm guessing he had less tenure than all the rest too.
hmm
So that could be
hmm
another factor in the whole thing. They were like, "Oh, wow, we need." I mean, the public's not going to let this one go. We've got 5 people that were injured here. Now,
right.
if those 5 bullets wouldn't have hit people, do you think any charges would have been levied against anybody?
No,
Yeah, I
no.
don't think. I don't think so.
If it was just the guy who pulled out the gun and threw it away, absolutely not. You seen it.
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
because in which is wrong. Like he did not. The guy held the barrel of the gun and then tossed it. And honestly, to tell you the truth, man, we discussed this, MLH. Like we wouldn't have touched that gun at all.
No.
They would have had to grab it off of me.
Yep.
I'm not touching shit. I'm having my hands up.
Yep.
Um,
Which still, I mean, they've been known to shoot people even in that position, but
very
at
true.
least
Very
it's
true.
it's it's
Very true.
less likely to happen, right?
Right. But
Um,
it looks I guess it would look better to a jury when it comes to a civil matter, to where that okay, this man wasn't doing anything wrong at all. He did everything in compliance, and he's not a threat whatsoever. So
right. Now they here's another thing. We've been talking a little bit about unions, KDOT. What
mhm.
is your thoughts on the union's response to this whole matter?
Look, I'm I think every entity should have unions, but when you try to abuse it and there's no type of regulation on that, then that's when it can be a huge problem. Because I mean, just the way their verbiage and when they did the press conference that we had showed on the last panel was completely arrogant, and they were victim shaming, and they were acting like the damn victim. Like, well, this is going to have a negative impact on um
Yeah, the
our
morale and
agency
yeah,
morale.
yeah, yeah.
We're already understaffed, overworked. Okay, like I'm just like y'all do know y'all have choices, right? Y'all can quit the agency and work in the private sector or become an entrepreneur. You don't have to do this. So I find that very, very, very weird
How
on
many
that.
entry level positions that you know of, KDOT? I mean, I'm talking entry level, right? And
Right,
even safety wise, right? If you're thinking of unsafe jobs, which that's another misnomer, that the police station is one of the most dangerous jobs. It's not even in the top 20.
right.
Um, w- what is a reasonable amount of money to expect? Uh, at an entry level position, KDOT. Like, I think I happen to think like my wife Bernie is is she works in the fast food industry, and it's fairly dangerous, right? You got fryers going on,
Oh yeah,
you've got slippery floors to deal with, even with non-slip shoes. Bernie has slipped several times. Um, I mean, entry level position, and it's definitely unskilled. You have to learn on the job. It's not it's not a skilled position. What is a reasonable amount to expect to pay an entry level police officer? I mean, I think their starting pay, KDot, is
hmm
somewhere in the realm of 60 to $75,000, depending on if you got military experience, handling weapons, stuff like that. It's like 60 to $75,000 we're paying these guys to start. Why is it that high? I don't understand. And they always point to safety, right? It's dangerous. It's dangerous to be a police officer. Well, it's dangerous to be a fast food worker. It's dangerous to be an electrician. But their entry levels are what, 40, 50,000 at most? Entry level? It's like it's so ridiculous the pay that these people get, and they're held in such high regard that nobody even questions that. Nobody even it doesn't even enter anybody's mind. Oh, just pay them whatever, you know.
yeah.
It's like
And,
no, we have
and
to
it's
look at
crazy
these things and
because
be reasonable.
barbershops, to
Yeah,
become a barber, they get more training as far as lengthwise,
right,
more than fucking police do.
right,
And the thing is, we should learn from other countries like Sweden or other places.
right.
You
Finland.
cannot. You're in the academy to 3 to 4 years before you're even on the field.
Yeah, you have to get equivalent of a bachelor's degree before you even get training in the field. And
Yep.
then you have to go training in the field, you know? And then if they determine that you're mentally unstable or you're not good enough to be there, you're not on the force. So you could have just wasted 3 or 4 years of your life trying to get into the police force over there. I
Correct.
agree. Jonathan says, I'd like to see 24-hour live streaming for body cams anyone can view. If only there was a platform that could do that, i.e., YouTube. I mean, it's pretty obvious, man. YouTube would be the platform, right? You have a whole section. If I wanted to go to Los Angeles County and view what the police are doing there, I should be able to just click on in and see what any given officer is doing on any given day. And that I think would be super transparent and would provide police with any ammunition they need for any wrongdoing, right?
Yeah.
If you're not doing anything wrong, well, here's the body cam to prove it, you know?
Yeah.
And on 24/7, like Jonathan says. Now, going to the bathroom, I think, is a bone of contention, but I think you should check in and out with your dispatcher, and I think you should be allotted time. You should, you know, I mean, sometimes people have upset stomachs, and it takes a good chunk of time to purge yourself in the bathroom. So
Right.
and if you're running up against the time frame, you can always call into dispatch. Hey, you know, I'm having some trouble here. But in that case, maybe you should just go home if you're that sick, you know. Six Banga, welcome on in. Nice to have you in here. Walter Davis, nice to have you in here as well. We're talking about Officer Ramos. He was involved in a shooting that hurt. Allegedly, he shot into a crowd of people and injured five with various bullet wounds in their body. And they're currently charging him with second degree assault, third degree assault, prohibited use of weapons, and reckless endangerment.
Yeah.
Obviously, innocent until proven guilty, but the videos don't lie. All those officers, I believe, in my opinion, shot recklessly, but only Officer Ramos was charged. Spooky says, if they were truly for serving the public and transparency, the general public should be allowed to watch any officer body camera on a live feed. The argument against it is uh, it's a stupid argument, but it's like privacy, citizen privacy is how they frame it. And I'm like, look, we're out in public. Nothing in public should be, if you're a detective, that's another thing. Like if you're chasing leads. Obviously, there's sensitive information. That's a whole different thing. But I think you should get a different clearance to be a detective, right? And there should be checks on. There should be a community-driven panel that is privy to all of your body cam information to make sure you're on the up and up too. You
And
know,
these are and yes, I agree with that, but they should also be regular civilians and not hired. And I don't think they should be paid for it. I think they should want to have these auditors or whatever. People can kind of like what we do, but yeah, they observe all body cameras because then it's true transparency because then they're not being paid to cover up anything. They truly work for the people, you know.
yeah.
So
Well,
I agree.
I mean, that's a tricky one, KDot, because time is money.
I
You
hear
know
you.
this,
Yeah,
you know this
I
as
hear you.
much as I do. I mean, but I think reasonable salary, like if you're, like I said, an entry level position, if you're making 30, 40, 50,000 a year, I don't
Mhm.
think that's too much. And I don't think there's too much corruption to be had with that little amount of money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's not a lot of corruption that can be done with that small amount of money. I'm not saying it can't happen, but I do think that people's time, like if I'm sitting there looking at body cam footage all day every day and I'm not getting paid, KDOT, what's the incentive to keep doing it?
Well,
Just
you're right. Well, maybe okay. Maybe I should restate that then. I would say hire a private agency to
yeah, yeah,
because then they're
independent,
not answering to
a police union
correct,
or a government
correct.
entity,
Hmm.
no extra money coming in and
Yeah,
fully audited all the time. Yeah, I'm okay with that.
yeah,
I think those salaries are fair, but that typical company salaries are too low. See, that's what I'm saying, Matthew. I don't think
yeah.
police salaries are fair at all. I mean, if you're going into, you're a rookie and you're learning on the job, you're basically training on the job because they have no training. We just covered that. I mean, I think 70,000 to do that job is just way too much. I mean, I think you should start maybe 50,000 or 40,000, 45,000. Whatever it is. um you know I mean, and then work your way up. Obviously pay increases, but the pay increases are crazy. I mean, if you look at Ramos's salary, KDot, 3 years in, and the guy was making 108,000 a year base salary, right?
Right,
And
right.
here's another thing. I don't think that you should be able to do side hustles. If you're a cop, you're a cop. Concentrate on being a cop, not a
Yeah,
security guard, because it's a completely different animal, right?
yeah.
And different rules, different, all that stuff. I don't believe you should be able to do side hustles like that as a police officer. There may be exceptions to the rule, like funerals and other things like that cops get paid for. That may be a little bit too much money, but that's splitting hairs. I mean, whatever. But I don't know, man. I mean, getting 100. If you're making $108,000 a year, KDOT, isn't
Hmm.
that enough? Isn't that enough? I
I
mean,
think that is. I
that's
think that is for sure. I mean, I mean, and you also got to remember they're also getting shitloads of overtime. We're not even talking about overtime that they're getting. So
Yeah, the
we have to
overtime
look
is
at that
crazy
too.
too, man. I mean, 108,000. I mean, I guarantee he makes 130,000, 140,000 a year.
Yeah.
And that's just stupid, ridiculous money, man. Now you're talking about, you know, in what, five, in 10 years you could be a millionaire if you save correctly. Like, it's crazy. Plus your pension. You got your pension to rely on in 10 years or however long it takes to get
Hmm.
vested. It's crazy.
Honestly, there are some chiefs that are millionaires.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Um, let's see. Vignettes, YouTube only recognizes 12 hours at a time. My son is a cop. He was pushing to get body cams, then finally got him in his city. See, that's great. That shows that your son is on the right track, Walter. That's actually really, really good. Live cams should be available for all government workers. I agree with that. Although I don't know how interesting live cams at the post office would be null, but you know what I mean. I mean, I agree. Um, they're very sensitive to cameras though. Like they don't care that they have a camera overhead, but the minute that you bring your camera in, that's when they have a problem because they can't manipulate that footage, right? So that's why they have a big problem with it. Walter says his reasoning was that it will clean up the cops that get rough on people, and it did. See, ooh, Justachios in chat. Holy cow! Watch out for Justachio.
No, no.
For painters, you're not considered skilled until you have 20 years experience. You know what, Jonathan? For good reason. I painted. I quote unquote painted my house, and I have mad respect for painters, man. Like anything like that, like roofers, painters, electricians. I mean, those are art forms, man. It takes a while. Uh, I agree, MLH, but it's still funny because I'm a full-grown 12-year-old. I'm the same way, Matthew. I'm a goofball. KDot knows me very well. We chop it up behind the scenes all the time, man. We're
Yeah.
it's fun. Um, got 2 commendations for being the first on scene of house fires and going in and pulling people out. He ended up in the hospital both times. Jesus, Walter, your son is a rare cop. Let me just put it that way, Walter. Your son is like, in a sea of bad apples, your son is the, because see, you know how people say there's only some bad apples in the police force. I think it's the opposite. I think there's a few good ones and a lot of bad ones. It's like, and they've done nothing to prove otherwise. You shouldn't be able to mute the cams. Spooky says 100% no muting of the cams. That's
No.
that's tampering with evidence, like Jonathan points out. Yeah,
That is. That's obstruction.
yeah.
That's literally obstruction.
Yep. I think my son makes 60 the first day on the job. He got shot. That's kind of rare, though, Walter. It's kind of rare. I mean, if you most cops, if you're a good cop, you won't have to pull out your gun almost your entire career, right? Unless you're a tyrant and you like to pull out your gun, like a
Right.
lot of them do. What's
Right.
truth? Welcome on in. Nice to have you in here. I got Justachio watching me, man. That makes me nervous, KDot. That Justachio. Hey, what's truth? Thanks for the super sticker, brother. Really, really appreciate it. Make sure you check out What's Truth's channel. He's got a
Appreciate you. What's true? Thank you.
So I guess to kind of summarize here, KDot, we goofed on the last panel, which is why you won't see that panel. I don't have it up because the police department actually gave me the wrong information. Which, how hard is it to give the wrong information? I think it was on purpose, KDOT, because
Yeah.
I was looking at it and I'm like, is this the officer that investigated, or is this a different officer altogether? But I clarified, and sure enough, it wasn't. But I mean, I sent that email back. I think you gave me the wrong information on Officer Ramos, and it was like, oh yeah, here it is, and then they right away gave it to me, right? So look how quick it was to get the information. So it took them a week, right? Which usually it takes 20 days. Like, I mean, they wait till the last minute to give you any information, right? Which is another huge problem, is getting the information. If this woman, within 5 minutes of me sending that email, gave me that information, she could have did the same thing as soon as she got the information. Oh,
Right.
here it is. Boom, send an email. Takes 2 seconds. There you go. I know a cop in my town who is 32. His gross pay is 200,000 because of overtime. Oh man. SSGG Dub is watching Mustachioed. I agree. What's truth? You definitely should watch Mustachioed. He's man, crazy guy. But there might be some news. We're working on. We had to get the lawyers involved, so I can't talk about too much. But there may be some announcements coming forward from myself and the Mustachioed very soon. So, stay tuned for that. He's an inner city cop. Lots of gang violence. There is some of that, Walter. There is, there is gang violence, no doubt. You're here to help to keep an eye on MLH and Mustache. I'm not part of Mustachio. What's truth? I don't know. I don't know why you keep. I don't know why you're on my ass on that, man. My mustachio.
I love
Yeah,
it.
that's cool. Just mustachio. Okay, so if for those who are just joining, we were talking about Officer Ramos and his alleged crimes of shooting into a crowd of people and injuring 5 people. Um, the charges being as follows: second-degree assault, third-degree assault, prohibited use of weapons, and reckless endangerment. All of which I think are very clear on the camera footage that we saw, KDOT,
Yeah.
whether it be surveillance or body worn cameras.
Mhm.
I think all officers involved were out of control in firing, especially when you see the video and the guy had the gun by its barrel, which
Yeah.
in no way, shape, or form is and pointed away from the cops and threw the gun. And after he threw the gun, that's when the officers decided to shoot. Not when he had the gun, after he had the gun. So,
Right.
I'm sure there's going to be civil litigation on that front as well. Even though apparently the guy was a felon. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah, he
Kate.
was. Yeah.
It yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say that's should be irrelevant to anything, but uh, but yeah,
And not only that, what was I about to say? Shit. During the initial press conference, the commander lied and stated that. Uh, remember, he said that the guy with the gun pointed it at the officers, which
never
was a
happened.
complete fabrication.
Yeah, never.
How am
Happened.
I pointing the gun at the officers when I don't even have? I have my gun around the rim of the gun. I mean, come
The
on.
barrel.
How am I supposed to shoot that? Like, and then I'm throwing it. I'm dispersing it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
stupid.
Jake doesn't write tickets because he doesn't want to spend his off time in court. See, that's. I mean, I wish there were more officers like your son, Walter, because that's good policing. That's like I don't want to be stuck in court debating on whether or not a guy sped 3 miles over the speed limit or 5 miles or whatever. I mean, come on. I mean, we're all responsible. I mean,
Yeah.
we know what's a good. I mean, all of us are capable of speeding. KDOT. Like, I mean, even without even like, what kills me? 25 mile an hour zones. And I'm not talking like school districts. Obviously, people are very careful around school districts because when the kids get in and out of school, I mean, you instinctively slow down. You
Yeah.
don't want anybody to get hurt. Nobody wants to get in an accident. Accidents
Yeah.
do happen, but it's just I don't know. It's just so weird. Um. So, anyways, those are the kind of like factual things around this Ramos guy. KDOT and I ran into this guy about an hour and a half, maybe. I would say about an hour and a half, right, KDOT? Because
No, well, our incident happened around 10:30, and I actually remember where we're at. We're on Colfax and Downey.
yes,
Um,
yes,
I looked at the street the other day. I was like, oh, I think this is where we were at. Colfax and Downey, approximately around 10:30 ish. And the incident happened at a little bit after 2 a.m.
okay,
On Sunday morning. So,
okay. So we were there as well.
but we were
We,
down the street, weren't we? Down the street?
we were a block away, and remember
Wow.
remember when we left, KDOT? We were so. Let's talk about this, KDOT, real quick
Yeah.
before we leave. I know
Sure.
we all got stuff to do, but we basically what happened is we had that incident. We pointed out that Ramos was basically going to get somebody killed,
Yeah.
and a few hours later, he ended up shooting into the crowd. So we were actually there at the bar scene, right? There's a huge bar scene in downtown Denver. There's, on Blake Street, I believe. We hit up Blake Street and I think Curtis. I can't remember. Maybe Wine Coop. But we were in the course field vicinity, which has a lot of bars, and people enjoy the nightlife there, and we
Right.
were enjoying it too. We were having a good time. We were
We got some free samples of food.
yeah, we were sampling, great barbecue, which I can't remember the name of that barbecue joint, but man, that little truck was awesome, man.
Yeah.
But
And the people were enjoying us. They didn't care if
everybody
we
was
were
enjoying it. They were having a good time.
recording.
It was like a throwback to when people first had video cameras, KDot. Hey, mom, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a festive atmosphere. We saw a couple drunk people puking, but that's just kind of normal, I mean, that
Yeah.
happens. I mean, you imbibe a little bit too much.
Yeah.
So when we were leaving, which was about 2 a.m., when everything was winding down, a little after 2 a.m., we were leaving, and we noticed that the cops were in a fervor, and they started closing off streets, right? And the one of the streets was right where we were. We were a block away from where that shooting occurred. We didn't hear it. I didn't hear anything. Maybe it was because the crowds were loud and whatever, but we didn't hear anything, which is really, really strange because gunshots, usually you hear that shit, KDot.
Yeah.
We didn't hear it, but everything was getting close. And KDot and I were both wondering, what the hell's going on here? Like, we can't go this way, we can't go that way, but we made our way out of there. And then that same day, because it was the morning, we found out that there was a shooting a block away from where we were. So luckily, neither of us was involved in that. Indirectly, we were, because we have. And by the way, Kate, just for clarification, you sent both of our videos to the attorneys, right? Of the people that got shot that night.
Yes. Yes. Of the initial subject that was shot that night, to his attorney, not the attorneys that were representing the 5 people. So the one who had the gun, we showed those videos to his attorney. Yes. So
yeah.
And I think I think we need to work on trying to get a hold of the attorneys of the 5 and send those videos to them too as well.
I think they'd be interested in those too, Kate.
Yeah.
Because it kind of shows the mindset that this guy had going into doing what he did, and the other officers, by the way. Most of them, I think, the woman officer was there, and another the guy that shoved us, I believe, was there as well, KDot. So
yeah,
just crazy. It was crazy. So that pretty much wraps it up, KDot. Do you have anything you want to plug? Anything upcoming that's going on? Anything that we're going to be working on, going out? Any cop watches? Anything at all that you want to say?
Well, a lot of people enjoy our videos for sure. So we're going to be doing a lot more double teaming. I think we should indulge in more audits as far as government entities, MLH.
No problem with that. I just don't want to do the post office thing.
Yeah.
I think it's the most boring, predictable things that cop.
Not my video. I got flicked off. She told me, "Fuck you." And
wow.
Yeah. There's a video. I think I'm gonna try to get that video and re-upload it. But yeah, it was right here off of Alameda and Airport. No, I think it's Airport Boulevard and Alameda in that particular area.
Buckley and Alameda.
Yeah, Buckley and Alameda. Yeah, sorry, Buckley and Alameda.
I just for me,
she was pissed. She was like, "Fuck you." I'm like,
it's another panel for another day, KDot. But for me personally, like the post office thing, man. I mean,
that's not your cup of tea. And
hell no, man. Like it's the most predictable, low hanging fruit of anything, man. Like there's no intrinsic value to me. I don't I don't know. We'll talk about it on another panel, man. Like, because we could go all day with that one. But
Yeah.
anyways, I want to thank everybody in chat. Thank you guys and gals so much. Really appreciate all of you. I do want to thank KDot for being on here. By the way, KDot, congrats on 7,000. We're gonna get KDot to 10,000 by the end of the year, no doubt. I mean, so if you haven't
Yeah.
already subbed to KDot, just look up DJ KDot the party on YouTube. He's also on TikTok. I guess TikTok's blowing up for you, man. I don't understand the TikTok, man. I guess
I'm
I'm
still trying to understand it,
I'm
honestly.
get off my lawn guy when it comes to TikTok, man. I have no idea, but
I'm honestly trying to still understand it. And if you guys want to see, uh, and yes, I actually do DJ. Uh, if you guys want to see live um, sets over there, go to TikTok. Go to my TikTok page because they're not going to hit me with the copyright bullshit. And you'll enjoy some music, man. We kick it and I will try my best to do a live stream with YouTube on here. um, but I'm not going to monetize off of that. But and that's okay. I do it for the people. I just don't want to get shut down. But
yeah.
and I think you played music before, and they didn't
Oh
mess with
yeah.
you.
No, they'll give you copyright claims. You just can't. This not strikes. They don't give you strikes,
They
man.
don't give you strikes. So,
Nah.
um,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's coming up. Yeah, so go to my TikTok page if you don't have it. I think we're up at we're almost at 2,500 followers over there. So, um, it's I'm getting a lot of love over there. Getting some hate, which is to be expected. They don't
Right.
like how rude I am. to, to like, how dare you?
I know. How dare you have a voice?
And here's the thing, guys. I want y'all to also remember this case law, uh, Hill versus Houston, versus Hill, and it specifically narrates stating that you are allowed to use vulgar language toward the police,
Yeah.
and it is protected by the First Amendment. So, if a police officer tries to say, "Oh, well, we're going to give you disorderly conduct for your language," well, I'm sorry, you can't be the complainant. No
Right.
officer can be the complainant. Okay, this is what they signed up for. They can't be the authority and the victims at the same time.
Right. Right.
uh, unless obviously if somebody shoots at them or whatever. But
Right.
we don't do that over here. We practice nonviolence. Uh, we don't we're not saying we hate the cops, but there's a lot of people who hate the cops. I get it in my feed all the time, and sometimes I have to correct some of the comments in there. As far as oh well, another pig dead or something. Well, I don't advocate. I don't want anybody to get hurt. This is the reason why me and MLH are doing this is because we don't want anybody to get hurt. We want every interaction with citizen and police officer we want both parties to leave safely.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I'm sorry, but in most of our videos, that happens.
Yeah.
Um, and the thing is, we I don't promote shooting a cop or anything like that because at the end we are not anti-cop. We are pro accountability, and I say
Yeah.
that in my videos all the time. MLH preaches that all the time as well. And again, we just want them to do better. It's we're critiquing. Because we love this country so much, we should be allowed to critique it and want it to be better,
No
right,
doubt.
MLH?
No doubt. 100%. All
So,
right.
thank you for having me on the show again, sir. It's an
Hey
honor.
man,
Thank you.
I mean this your show as well, man. KDot. In all honesty, guys and gals, I know there's a lot of big time YouTubers out there. Long Island Audit, which by the way, KDot did a good job of holding Long Island Audit to accountability on a panel. Make sure you check that out. That's on Rogue Nations, I believe. What else? There's a bunch of big ones out there. Bay Area is another big one. A bunch of big YouTubers out there, but I
Shout out to Bay Area.
my my favorite of all time is and will always be KDot. and for reasons that go beyond KDot and the Batosai. I forgot about the Batosai. Batosai actually has case law,
Yeah.
and so does KDot. Well, KDot doesn't have case law, but he's beaten every charge up against him because he does it the right way. The only two people that I've seen take on the man and actually come out on top, so
Yeah.
but KDot to me is the greatest. I'm telling you guys, I've seen him in action. We've had arguments about language and other things, but but I know for a fact KDot is in it for the right reasons, and he's one of the only ones that's in it for the right reasons. I would throw myself in that as well. But if you're not subscribed to KDot, KDot is going to be an absolute superstar in the next 5 years. I just see it coming, KDot. I know you're humble, you don't think it, but you are the best in Denver for sure. I there's no doubt in my mind. But anyways, if you guys want to see me in a different light, make sure you check out RP Grinders tonight, my video game podcast that I do on a different YouTube channel, but it's on Twitch. Just go to Twitch and search RP Grinders, and you can see me there tonight at 7 Eastern time. It's always a good time. We always
I got
have
to get my Twitch back. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Also, KDot is hopefully going to be watching The Shining soon, and him
Yes.
and I
Yes.
will be doing a horror movie show that Sasquatch is going to kind
So
of.
I figured out a name for the
Yes.
podcast, and if it's okay
Yeah, go right ahead, man. This
with
is
you.
exclusive.
I decided to call it Scary Swag Podcast.
Scary swag. I'm good, man. Good with me.
Scary Swag, because we love scary movies, and both of us have swag. You know what I'm saying? And that's just what it is.
Yeah.
I love. He had the most swaggerous scary gear ever. I love his hats, his shirts. MLH is the scary swag. He is. He's scary swag. He's the definition of scary swag. Okay.
There you go, man.
He has all the horror hats for most of them. I'm just like, man, that shit is he's dope, man.
Man, it keeps growing, bro. I mean, I can't help myself sometimes, man. I just have to indulge here and again. But
and I will do my homework this Saturday, and I'm off this Saturday, so I will be looking at the Shining. If my DVD thing doesn't work, then I will purchase it online and I will watch it.
You won't do yourself a disservice, man. I told you, Shining is the greatest horror movie of all time, man. And we will discuss it on that podcast. You guys can check out that soon. All right. Anything else, KDot, before we bid adieu?
I believe that is it. I love all of you guys. You guys are the best. MLH, I love you, man. Appreciate you for having me on the show. And let's do it for freedom, and let's be consistent, let's be transparent, let's love one another, and do it for the right reasons. So
yep. Just remember, everybody, be safe out there. Be kind to your family, be kind to your friends, but most importantly, be kind to yourself. We're out. Later, everybody. Have a good day.